Okay, so here we have an example in which they give us a sinusoidal graph and they want us to come up with the formula. So how do we do that? Well, let's go back to the notes that I've sent you. So the notes for this situation, from a graph, find the equation, find the formula. So how do we do it? Step one, you got to find a box. One box that exactly contains a sine or cosine. Now, to do that, you got to be super clear on what a sine or cosine does in his one cycle box. Look at this. Sine starts in the middle, ends in the middle in his box. Goes high, goes low, back to the middle. The negative sign, same thing. Starts in the middle, ends in the middle, goes low, then high. Right? Whereas cosine is a U-shape up or a U-shape down. So that's the key difference. You've got to know that key difference. If you see a U-shape, so cosine starts high and ends high, or starts low and ends low. He doesn't start or end in the middle of his box. The cosine is a U up or a U down in his box. That's one cycle of cosine, a U up or a U down. Whereas sine starts in the middle and ends in the middle. Sine and cosine are the same thing. They're just shifted in different spots. So sine starts in the middle, ends in the middle. Starts in the middle, ends in the middle. The only difference between positive sine and negative sine is positive sine goes up first and then down, whereas negative sine goes down first, then up. But they both start and end middle, start and end middle. That's what sine does, whereas cosine is a U up or a U down, not in the middle. Not starting and ending in the middle, starting or ending top or bottom, right? Okay, with that difference, then you look and you put a box and you identify whether you have this one's a sine, right? Because he's starting in the middle and ending in the middle. That's why this one came out to be a sine. Then you write the general form once you've identified it. Okay, let's go back and do that. So what do we have here? We try to put our box at 0 if we can. So I want to go to 0, and I'll explain. This one you can because that's hitting in the middle. Right? So then I'm going to go find another. Now, if I go to the right, how do you know we should go right or left? Well, if I tried to go right to find another middle, I'd have to go like way over here. That's what that would be. This would be one cycle from middle to middle. That would be one cycle of sine. Why sine? Because it's going middle to middle. But that goes off my graph. So I mean, you could do that. You could probably figure out. That looks like it's probably, I don't know, it's probably 4. It's just one number more. I mean, you could make that work, but it's going to be easier to not go off your graph. So I'm just going to go back, and I'm going to go left. And now how did I know how far to go? Well, I had to hit middle. Remember, sine goes middle of the box to middle of the box. So there is one cycle. We captured one cycle. That's sine. That's A sine bx plus c plus d. How do we know? Because it goes middle to middle. Middle to middle. So that's got to be exactly one cycle of sine. Exactly one cycle of sine because it's middle to middle. Okay, so now that we've got it, we got the general formula. Let's go back to the notes that I sent you. What would be that? Steps 1 and 2. Step 3. Now you start looking at your box, and it tells you what you need. Put that back. There we go. The middle of the box. That's your D. D is the middle of the box. The amplitude is how far it goes above and below that middle. So let's go, and that's A. Let's go back and get those things. So what's the middle of our box? Well, it's 1. Right? The middle of our box is 1. And how far above and below its middle? The amplitude is 2. It goes above and below by 2. So, but hold on. Our graph goes, in this box, goes down first, then up. Right? Let me be really, really clear for you on this. It goes, let's just look at it down first. Right? So it goes down first. So that's A is -2. So it's actually -2 because a sine graph that goes down first is a negative sign. So A is -2, and on the D, our D is 1 because that's what the middle is, it's D. Do you see that? Let's go back to the notes. So back to the notes. Again, remember how these boxes work. Be really clear. Sine that goes up first is a positive sign. Sine that goes down first in his box is a negative sign. We have a negative sign in our example. All right, let's go on to step 3. well, we've been on step 3. We get the middle, we got the A. Now figure out the width of the box. You know, from edge to edge, the width of the box, they got an arrow right there, is the period, which is 2 pi over b. So let's go back and do that. So the width of our box, right here. Boom, boom. There we go. The width of our box is 4, and that's the period. Period is the width of the box, the width of one cycle. So that's the period. 2 pi over b is 4. Bring it over here. We'll solve for b. So you know what to do. Solve for b. Put this over 1. Diagonal, diagonal. Cross multiply. 2 pi times 1 is 4 times b. So 2 pi is 4b. Divide by 4. Boom. It cancels. b equals 2 goes into 4 2 times. Pi over 2. So we got b. So we got D, we got A, we got B. All we need is C now. C is going to be 0. Let me show you. Coming back over here, the notes. Last thing is the right edge or the left edge. It doesn't matter. These boxes repeat forever, right? Another box starts right here. So you could call this right edge the start of another box, or you could say the left edge, that's the start of this box. See, it doesn't matter. Either edge can be considered the start. The horizontal shift is either the right or the left. Since this one's already at 0 and this one's at -6, 0 is easier. So let's just use that. You could do either one. It would be correct. But let's just use this one. The right edge is 0. That's the start of a new box. So in other words, our horizontal shift is 0. Because our new box, our next box begins right at 0. So it hasn't been, our sine or cosine graph has not been shifted sideways at all. No horizontal shift. It begins right at 0. The next box begins right at 0. So let's go back to it. That's the same exact situation with our box. Right here at 0 is the right edge of the box. Again, we could have done the left edge, which is -4, and that would work. That formula is correct, but that's where this box begins. But we might as well, 0 is easier to work with. That's where the next cycle begins, right? Right here. Here's the next cycle of sine begins right there at 0, doesn't it? So we have our horizontal shift is 0. That means that the boxes haven't been shifted at all. So come down here, horizontal shift equals 0. The formula for that's -c over b. That's easy to solve for c. I don't even need to plug in b, even though I could. I know b. Who cares? It's just going to be 0. 0 times b is 0. c is 0. So our c is 0. We're done. So minus sine b. What is b? We got b right here. Pi over 2. X plus c. We just found c is 0. Plus d is 1. There we go. There's our formula for that sinusoidal graph.